I'm trying to fill up office buildings, and I'm telling J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, I'm telling all of them, listen, I need your people back into office so we can build the ecosystem. How does that look? That city employees are home while I'm telling everyone.
Welcome to another episode of the Jay Lex Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Lex. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on the content. I appreciate you rocking with me. Before I get into my main topic today, I wanted to make a correction. In the last episode, it's already aired. I talked about these things going on at Jackson State. Deion Sanders leaving for Colorado. Some people all in their feelings about it, but I called Jackson State a private school. It's actually a state school, and so that's my fault. I wanted to make that correction because I was talking about some of the misappropriation of funds, I think back in 2016 or something like that, and I wanted to make that correction. It is in fact a state school, like I attended. I talked about that in the episode as well. I wanted to make that correction. It is in fact a state school. But speaking of that topic, we got a little bit of not an update here, but a gentleman by the name of Kevin W. Cosby. He has a doctorate. I didn't see specifically what his doctorate's in. He's at Simmons College. I don't know exactly where that's located. I don't really care. But he basically put a tweet out essentially saying that he wanted Deion to fail as a head coach at Colorado. For those of you who don't know, Deion Sanders was at Jackson State for 3 years, helped to elevate the entire HBCU brand, I guess you would call it. They had a bunch of terrible TV deals. He got them better TV deals. They got like a 10-year contract. I went through all this stuff in episode 34, so you can go back and listen to it. But he essentially said, this doctorate essentially said that he wanted Deion Sanders to fail as the head coach at Colorado, which things like this really, really, really irk me. You know? He has an official statement out there. I think I posted it on the YouTube channel here. You know, at some point, as a community, we have to address the level of emotional immaturity that exists within the black community. We have to talk about this. It's really, really, really mind-boggling, some of the BS that I come across. This man has a doctorate. Like I said before, I haven't found what his doctorate's in, but it's a doctorate. I know it takes a bunch of years, so nevertheless, he's accomplished something. But it seems like no matter what you accomplish in this life, and no matter what status you get to in your life, there's this crab in the bucket mentality. You always want to bring people down. You always want to bring them down. You don't want them elevating themselves. I mentioned yesterday the 60 Minutes interview. Go and watch that 60 Minutes interview. In fact, I might post it for those who don't know. I'll post it in the timeline here. I don't think people understand the sacrifices that Deion Sanders had to make in order to get this program where it is in a matter of 3 years. I don't think people understand that. He had to forego his salary because the school didn't have any funds. A grown man having to forego his salary so that he could put it back into the program. He made an investment in the program. You can say, well, you know, it was the school's money. He spent all those hours working. Didn't he, to build the program up? Is it his fault that they were sitting there misappropriating funds before he got there? And look at what he's built in 3 years. In 3 full seasons as a head coach. 11-2 his first year, I think undefeated back-to-back, 2021, 2022. At what point do certain black people, and it's not all black people, I want to be fair, do certain black people get beyond their emotions? This seems to be the theme of my podcast, emotions. Everything is about how you feel. At what point do you grow up? At what point do you sit there and you look and you say, you know what? I wish he had stuck around. I wish he had, stuck around to help us build more. But you know what? That man forgoed his monies. Now you can say, oh, well, he made money during his NFL career. I only found out recently. He played 14 years and he made $30 million. On average, that's what, a little over $2 million, $2.5 million? He's got to pay his agent. He's got to pay his manager. It's not like he was getting $100 million contracts. There are 6 men in the NBA who made more money in 2 years than Deion Sanders, arguably the greatest cornerback of all time, in his entire career. Taxes, etc. I mean, what are we doing? Why is there this level of immaturity in certain black people? Why do y'all sit there and get mad when people are trying to better themselves? He's going from $300,000, I believe it is, some of which he had to give back to university, to now making close to $6. I mean, what the hell is going on? People out there calling him names, coon, amongst other things. Is that all y'all got? How can you, as another grown man, wish that Deion Sanders fails as the coach of Colorado? And then he tried to there's a full statement. I think I put it on the YouTube timeline. Put out a full statement. Oh, well, what I actually meant was the entire system. No. If you're going to say something ignorant and put it on Twitter, then stand by what you say. Don't cop out. Don't sit there and be all emotional, and then once the backlash comes, oh, no, what I actually meant was, no. We know what you meant. And I'm not sitting here saying that there aren't other groups of people, because there are, but right now we're talking about black people specifically. So much emotion over nonsense from a bunch of people who, if they were in Deion's position, would do the same exact thing that he did. And you're supposed to. You're not supposed to be stagnant forever. That man got you out of bad deals. That man's got you notoriety. How many of these professors, all these other people complaining, quit their careers, became a head coach at an HBCU, and put them on the map? There's only one. His name is Deion Sanders. All the rest of y'all, all you do is talk. You talk and talk and talk, and you do nothing. There's no action. There's no plan. Y'all are goddamn despicable. What was your plan to bring the HBCUs to notoriety? Did this gentleman, Kevin W. Cosby, have the same smoke for Brett Favre? He's in Mississippi. I don't know where Simmons College is, but he's in Mississippi. Did you write something about him and his misappropriation of funds? Did you have anything to say about that? But no, let's attack Deion Sanders. Some of y'all are super backwards, and I don't get why it is you have that mentality. Were you not raised right? Would people like to see Deion stay there longer? Sure. But what is life also about? It's about new opportunities. Any one of y'all would have taken another job somewhere else to make more money if you were in the same position, whatever your profession is. A lot of y'all need to grow up, man. I don't know if it's therapy. I don't know if it's finding Jesus. I don't know what it is. Some of y'all are your own worst enemies. You don't want to see anybody else doing better. You don't want to see anybody else getting additional opportunities. You don't want to see anybody else growing. That's like saying, if you work hard, and you get yourself to a certain point financially, you still have to live in the same goddamn neighborhood you grew up in. As if you making money is going to change the policy in that area. No. You worked hard. You got out of that neighborhood. Most of y'all, all you're worried about is status and what people think of you. That's why you put so much emphasis on celebrities and other entertainers. You live vicariously through them. You do nothing for yourself. And then when anybody wants to inch forward and inch away from the bullshit, y'all want to sit there and get mad and call them names and wonder why it is they don't come back to help you. It was not Deion's job to stay at the HBCUs for 10 years and try to fix something that was policy driven. He didn't misappropriate funds, to my knowledge. Hell, he brought direct economic impact. A direct economic impact to the program and HBCUs as a whole. I told you in the last episode, the only person I know of who was doing that of any notoriety was Stephen A. Smith. For whatever you might think about him. All the rest of y'all sit there and you complain and you complain and you do nothing. And you don't even support people who are trying to do better. I've had this discussion before. I don't want to get too much into it. But y'all sit there and you get mad at certain people, like myself, who are in interracial marriage. Do you not realize that at some point those people can be could go out and make something of themselves and make a lot of money and come back and help your community, but you sit there and you ostracize them. You call them names. And then expect them to come and help you after you've insulted them. Screw you. Why would any individual of any status want to sit there and have to deal with somebody who's going to insult them all the time? We don't even know the day-to-day that Deion had to deal with. Because you're not just dealing with a school. You're dealing with politicians. Everybody wants their cut. Do you go after those people? We know how the system works. Deion Sanders has every right to challenge himself and to make a decent living. Period. It's frustrating and it's disgraceful how some of y'all act. And a good portion, you're educated. Still acting like people owe you something. You know how the world works? It's unbelievable. Oh, apologies for the rant that I just went on there, but it just really it aggravates me beyond words when I see certain people, whatever ethnicity or nationality or religion that they are, who don't know how to act, who don't know how to appreciate someone doing better for themselves, their family, etc. It's just, yeah. Anyway, I'm not gonna bore you with that. The real topic that I wanted to talk about today, I saw something on Facebook. I don't know who the person is, but they basically, the caption reads at the top, am I wrong for quitting? And I believe it's a woman based upon her nails, basically going up back and forth with her boss, I assume. She was supposed to take time off for Christmas. The boss waited till the last minute to say, oh no, we need you to come in. She was like, well, I already took the time off, etc. And then the boss said, there are no options here. Like, you have to come in. If you want to keep your job, essentially you're going to come in. And she basically quits over text message. And I brought this up because we live in a different time now, obviously. A lot of people work from home. A lot of people who have those jobs, a lot of the bosses are somewhat upset because in some cases, some people have like a P.O. box. and they will basically take whatever, monies or whatever the case might be, or they'll go somewhere else. Like, they won't even live in the state that they're working in. Sometimes the bosses, because you can use like VPNs and stuff like that, they don't know what the actual location is of their employee. I can kind of understand that, I guess. If you're saying you're in New York and you're in Florida, actually, it kind of makes sense. It would make sense that you'd want them like close if you want them coming into the office. But I'm talking about a bigger point here. Employers have to come to realize, especially when you have remote work, okay, the Rona thing flipped the world upside down. It was already moving that way anyway. You can talk liberal, conservative, blah, blah, blah. You can talk all you want to. But when we were at the height of it and people were living like sardines in New York City, as an example, a lot of people left. Okay? The reality is a lot of people, and we talk about mental health a lot, but it just seems like we just talk about it. There's a lot of people who are on like hybrid schedules. They have to go into the office a couple times a week. But for the most part, if you have the type of employment where you can sit at a desk at the crib or something like that, people are going to take those jobs. I know people who worked retail for many years. I had a good friend of mine who missed his daughter's preschool, or I think it was preschool graduation, because he had nobody to cover for him at the store he worked at. He's since taken on a remote job at home. He's got more time for his family. He's got more time to spend with his family. He's happier. I think as much as we talk about mental health, it's really just a tagline. It's just a hashtag. At some point, these employers have to come to realize that the workers are going to want more equity. Now, my generation, I don't know exactly where I land. I think I'm like a Gen Z or a Gen X, Gen Z. I don't remember exactly where it is that I fall. I don't think I'm a millennial, but I have no clue. We were the first ones to really, experiment with this idea of working from home and things along those lines. We're the first ones, more importantly, to have that sense, or the last ones, I should say, to have that sense of loyalty to the office. Today's younger people will quit the job and burn a bridge and not think twice about it. Now, people of my era, I'm not trying to sound like it's a good or a bad thing. It's dependent upon your situation. They care about their mental health. I mentioned this before. You can't yell at the young kids today like they did when I was growing up. I wasn't a great basketball player. I wish I was, but I messed up a lot. And guess what? I got yelled at and I ate it, because that's what you did. Okay, I worked part-time with an older gentleman. Okay, he's a little emotional. He gets on my nerves sometimes, but for the most part, I deal with it. But there's a younger woman who I also work with, who is a very emotional person and will not take it from him at all. We'll talk back. We'll tell him to shut up, like the whole bit. It's amazing. And I kind of watch this, and I'm like, and he doesn't get it. I'm like, you're from a different era. The young era today is not going to take lip from people, especially from older people. They won't take advice from anybody, but especially somebody who's a senior citizen. And I'm going to quickly, it's an amazing time because of this transition. A lot of things that are more technical or technologically advanced. We can, like I said, I had a friend who worked for a very famous company in New York City, and then they had to go remote. Most of his work is remote anyway, so he would have to jump on the train to, I believe it doesn't go straight into the city. I believe it stopped in like Secaucus, New Jersey or something like that, and then you have to take the path into the city, and he worked in like Midtown somewhere. So he had to do that every single day. It's about an hour or so, on the train. I think a little over an hour, depending upon if the train's functioning or not, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But when it came time to go back into the office, this company said, we need you back full time. And he's like, no, I don't want to come back full time. Like, I don't want to come in at all. My job doesn't require me to be in an office. It's all digital. It's on a laptop. So basically him and a bunch of other people left that job. He ended up landing another job that made him more money. And he doesn't have to go into an office ever. No, he doesn't ever have to. Maybe once a quarter he might have to fly out somewhere to meet with people. But as long as he's getting his work done, he doesn't need to fly out anywhere. And I think overall the idea of loyalty to a company is all but gone out the window. You know, especially at these jobs that are more digital, essentially. But I'm going to quickly play you a clip here. It's a little bit of an older clip. This is Mayor Eric Adams. This is about a year old, but this was what I'm going to play the clip, and then I'm going to come back and talk about it.
I need people back into the office.
New York City's new mayor is not mincing words. He's upset many of the big banks and other large corporations are not requiring their workers back to the office amid another COVID surge.
That is going to be devastating for our economy. And I don't know if my businesses are sharing with their employees. You are part of the ecosystem of this city.
In Adams' comments Tuesday, he then offended some, speaking in broad terms about what he called low-skilled workers' dependence on big businesses.
My low-skilled workers, my cooks, my dishwashers, my messengers, my shoe shine people, those who work in Dunkin' Donuts, they don't have the academic skills to sit in a corner office. They need this.
With the city's COVID rate around 22% this week, and despite a citywide vaccine mandate, firms like J.P. Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and Goldman Sachs have let their workers stay remote for now.
My in-laws are the epitome of resilience. So they've made it through recessions, hurricanes, 9/11, blackouts, and now a pandemic.
The small businesses like Joanne Kwong's Family Emporium in Soho make up 98% of the city's workforce. 3,000 closed during the height of the pandemic, and many may not return.
We really will continue to need help for some time. We've made it through the worst part, but we really do need help to get through to a full recovery.
Ooh, low skill. Ooh, wow, low skill. He's not technically wrong, but he wasn't wrong about they're not academic, whatever it is that he said. But given the times that we're in today, people can get offended. I can partially understand it. But what I don't think people are understanding is people do not, like I said before, we always talk about mental health. We always talk about, you've got to take a day off and do this and do that. The loyalty to the job is not what it once was, or whatever your career is, not just your job. Rona, which I think was done on purpose, but people are going to say I'm a conspiracy theorist, whatever, hurt the small business. And you can no longer be reliant upon the big business to help the small business, kind of a trickle-down economy. While I understand some of the arguments that are being made, especially for restaurants in the city, because if people were in there every single day, even if you went out once a week, it helped those small businesses, as terrible as this is. Unfortunately, for some of those small businesses that were reliant upon the foot traffic, people being in the city, things along those lines, those days are over, unfortunately. Or at least for now. I don't see how. I'll give you what I think is going to be the way to come back. The bigger problem is, for the longest time, and this is not Mayor Eric Adams' fault. This is not his fault. This is beyond him. This was before him. This was administrations before him, who kicked the ball down the road, barely did anything, lived off of the fact that New York City was like the epicenter of like entertainment and art and everything like that. It will always be there. But in the past 10 or 12 years or so, they have allowed that city, especially under de Blasio, aka de Bozo, to fall apart. The infrastructure is terrible. It's not safe. So now, not only were people moving out at the height of the pandemic, Your tax base is coming down. Those small businesses are not going to be bringing in the same revenue. But I can't blame the other side. I used to drive to work, my old job, for 12 years, 5 days a week over the Tappan Zee Bridge. Every day. In the morning, it was fine. I'd get up early. I had a schedule where I worked early some days and later some other days. I would, on the days that I was going a little bit later, I'd go to the gym, I'd play basketball, I'd work out, I'd take a shower, go to the sauna, the whole bit. It was a decent schedule. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. But you realize just how much time you spend in traffic. Like Fridays during the summer, trying to come back from Connecticut to where I live. Generally, the drive to work was about 25 to 30 minutes. It was an hour and a half to 2 hours to get home, the same mileage. You had a bunch of people who lived in like Greenwich and Westchester who had like homes in upstate New York, so they would all jump on and go to upstate. Kind of like people who are in Long Island who go to the Hamptons for like 36 hours, which I never understood, as expensive as it is. You cannot expect those people who now have the ability to be home, especially if they have families, to want to go back into the city when they don't need to. You want to save New York City, Mayor Adams, or whoever is listening? This is very simple. Well, it's not simple, but you understand what I'm saying. First and foremost, you fix the infrastructure. When we had some storms last summer, we had one big storm last summer. You can go and look up the videos, like in the Bronx. There was like flooding in the Bronx and like Mount Vernon. You had water shooting out of the subway in one of the subways. I can't remember what street it was. Like shooting out, like it was like you were at a spring or a dam or some shit like that. You have to fix your infrastructure. And furthermore, if you want people to go back into the city, especially those who have to drive every single day, you need public transportation everywhere. What happened to all that money that the MTA, last I heard, was bringing about $5 million a day? Where did all that money go? I know there's pensions and stuff like that, but where's the rest of it? Where's the rest of that money going? How is it that every time I see like the Metro North or I see one of the subways in the city, it literally sounds like everything is like, it sounds still like it's grinding. Like the tracks are so old. Why hasn't things been up? Why hasn't there been upkeep? Why are there constant delays? Why do you have homeless people in the subway areas? Crime is up. We talked about the story of the EMT woman, I don't have her name in front of me, who was stabbed to death in Astoria by somebody with mental health issues. Stabbed, broad daylight, it was like noon. Stabbed to death for picking up lunch. And like I said before, this is not Mayor Adams' issue, but you also decided to run for mayor of New York City. Fix your infrastructure. There should be a train. Now, I don't know all of the geography, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how that works specifically. But if it's me, I want trains going every 15 to 30 minutes in and out of different parts so I can get people in. That way they're not stuck in traffic. They can drive in on the weekends, but during the week, 15 to 30 minutes. Every 15 to 30 minutes, and then maybe at midnight it goes every hour. You get people on the trains, you get people off the trains. You give them a nominal fee, nothing crazy. Now they don't have to. Now they can just pay for parking in their area, get into the city, handle their business. If they want to go out, cool. Oh, there's a train coming in 15 minutes. All right, I'll catch it at whenever or wherever I can catch it. That way you get those people who once worked in the office back into the office. They don't have to worry about gas. They know the train's coming quickly, so it's not as if they have to hang out all the time. God forbid something happens to them. So that nothing happens to them, excuse me. But like I said, I'm not an engineer, so that's not for me to know. I know they got bullet trains. I think there's a train that goes from Orlando to Miami in like under an hour. And it's about 2.5, 3 hours. It's like a fast train of some kind. They've got them in Japan. Why don't we have them here? You've got to get the homeless people off the streets. I know he's beginning to try to do that now, trying to get people out of there or into shelters or something like that. You can't have them out in the street. You can't have panhandlers asking people for money all the time. You can't become San Francisco. I've never been to San Fran, but I know that there's craziness that goes on there. People are not going to go for that. I know they've got a rat issue. I know he's trying to hire a rat czar and pay them like a little under like $175,000 a year. That is $1 million job. The city is overran by rats. Overran. I don't know how you fix it. But you have to start with the infrastructure. People have to believe that they feel safe. That's one of the big reasons people don't want to go into the city now. They don't want to go into Penn Station and what's the other one? Penn Station and the subway system. The one on 42nd, I'm blanking on it right now. Port Authority. People don't want to go there. They don't feel safe. If they don't feel safe and they have an option to stay home, they're going to stay home. And if you think, you're going to threaten them with, well, we're going to take your job from you, good luck. There's like 10,000 other jobs that they can get, probably for better pay. That's how you fix a place like New York City. California's got its own set of issues. I've only been there once, but I've seen the videos. You can't have people breaking into other people's cars in broad daylight stealing backpacks or them getting robbed outside the crib. I know this is controversial because we were talking about defund the police, but you've got to have some kind of middle ground. You've got to have a police force that handles their business and is allowed to handle their business. You can't have criminals running rampant and then have a no bail system where they can get out 24 hours later. I talked about it previously. The no bail thing that's going into effect in Illinois, January 1st. Homicide, DUI, all these crimes that are you can get out of jail for. It was a homicide. There's a slew of them. I can't remember off the top of my head now. You can't have that. Why? Because crime's going to go up. You can't have somebody who just committed a heinous crime, second-degree murder, I think was one of them, and then 24 hours later, they're out. You're handcuffing the police. Does that mean that every single police officer is good? Of course not, but you still need them. And guess what? Sometimes people are going to get roughed up. And you can't have the goddamn ACLU, amongst others, out here trying to bring lawsuits. Because it's going to be all good until it's your family member, your loved one that gets attacked. And then you're going to be fucking boo-hooing, asking what happened. That's how you get people back into the office. That's how you get people's trust back. I don't care about left, right, or anything else. You want people back in the office, give them an option where they don't have to drive into the city every single day. Oh, they have a parking spot. I don't care about a parking spot. That's gas, that's tolls. That's my time. And what are the two most important currencies in the world? Time and money. And time is more important than money because you don't get enough time. It can end just like that. That's why people don't want to go back to the office. People will work remotely 10, 11 hours days in their pajamas and get their work done and be happy, depending upon the job. Why? Because they don't have to we don't have to wake up early, jump into the car, be stuck in traffic, pay a bunch of tolls. And I know it hurts the small business. I get it. But those small businesses have to make adjustments. I know Eric Adams was talking about like cleaners and things along those lines. Look, I get it. And they're not low-skill workers. They have a specific skill set. He was right about the academic part. Some of them don't have the academic accomplishments to work in an office. You know, a master's degree, etc. Okay, that's fine. But the reality is, you have to make adjustments with the times. There's nothing more to it, in my opinion. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Lex Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on the content. Till next time, take care.
Fighting crime, fighting inequality, fighting rats is something that we are focused on as we continue to make this city a livable city. Everyone that knows me, they know one thing: I hate rats. You know, when we started killing them in Borough Hall, you know, some of the same folks are criticizing us now, called me a murderer because I was killing rats. Well, you know what? We're going to kill rats. Rats have no place in this city. And we're going to use every method that's needed to do so they're not harming families and our quality of life. We are not going to sit back and accept that we have to be in a city where rodents are taking care of our city. We are meeting this head on, and we are going to be willing to have a moonshot mindset of doing things differently as we approach this issue of a long-standing historical issue of dealing with rats. And I spoke with my colleagues in Paris, you know, same problem there. Rats is an issue that we're facing based on the habits of human beings.